Hello, fellow dorks, and welcome to Alone in the Dork. Today, I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm going to actually be doing a review of a 5th edition / Daggerheart adventure by Wyverse called Murder on the Molybdivum. Man, I hope I'm pronouncing that properly. Now, Wyverse did provide me this copy for perusal, but this is by no means a paid promotion. But since it is one of those rare, structured Daggerheart adventures, I couldn't resist diving in. Now, coming in at 88 pages, this is by no means the adventure that I expected, especially from a first-time publisher with Wyverse. At its heart, it's kind of a steampunk adventure murder mystery set on this Zeppelin, and it is set for Tier 2 level of play for Daggerheart and about levels between 3 and 5 for Dungeons and Dragons. But does it hit more than it miss? Well, let's take a little deep dive, or maybe that's, what would that be on an airship? A quick ascent into the review and find out. Now, my first criteria is the only miss of this review, and that is layout and usability. At the beginning of the book, everything is presented very clean and very clear, but as the adventure begins to progress, it becomes very text-heavy, and the formatting isn't as helpful as I would like. Plus, I did find a number of typos, and the tables weren't as easy to find. I also feel that hyperlinks would have really helped with the usability and the flow of the document. Now, for the story and setting, this is a hit. And the premise is pretty simple. An adventurer turned Zeppelin captain brings the party on board their airship to help them police their ship. But if that doesn't work for you, the book provides plenty of reasons based off of communities and ancestries and classes of why your characters would be there on the ship. Now, for me, if I was running this, I think I would have the PCs just think they're on the ship just to get from point A to point B. And I would have, there is this, one of my favorite, I think, was there's this, dragon butterfly that is attacking the ship. Now, what this does, this could draw the attention of Agatha, and she is the acting detective on board the ship and is about to experience an overwhelming murder case. And with the PCs detached from the multitude of ship's politics, they would make good natural investigators because they are unbiased to all of the politics that are going on this ship. And this leads us to our third category, which is another big hit. It's not quite a critical hit, but we're going to call this a success with hope. And that is factions and NPCs. The airship hosts a multitude of organizations, corporations, and factions, like Hexoil, the provider of the clean energy source for the ship. And there is also the delightfully infuriating, this is my favorite, the Gentleman Guild. And I quote, "They rob you blind and leave only a calling card. A mocking invitation to bid on your own stolen valuables at an auction that you will never attend, held at a place you will never find." And even more fruitful are the wide range of NPCs with clear motivations, backgrounds, and secrets. One of my favorites is one just leering there in the background, which is Manuel Warrington, who is a skeleton because this pervasive mold has taken over his body and devoured his living flesh. But there's a handful of other kind of lighter, fun characters and not so fun characters. There's hedonistic fairies. There's a scrapper with an interesting family secret. And we also have the owner of the airship and its self-proclaimed prince. And then there's my favorite, Baxter Hyphen, a transmuter shade, and I quote, "He has made it his career to be anyone and everyone, man or monster. Charming farm boy at the gates one moment, handsome socialite at a party the next, and your worst nightmare to close out the day." Now, as you can see, there is a lot of artwork in this game, and this is my critical hit of the review. And while the maps are not gridded, they very clearly convey the locations of the ship, and the GM can very easily draw out some of the locations that are needed if any combat situations arise. But what Wyverse seems to pride themselves on, and rightfully so, is that all of the art and everything in this book is 100% made by humans. And with such a large undertaking, they very easily could have taken the easier, cheaper, faster route, and they didn't. In this said, the artwork shines, obviously created by different artists, but all of it is very evocative, and it is still all within the same world and setting. Now, this moves us into our next category, which is challenges and player agency. Now, I have not had a chance to playtest this, but for the best I can tell, the game seems to be well balanced for the characters' levels, and a major plus is that it has the Daggerheart stats, as well as an appendices with all of the 5th edition stats for all of the monsters and NPCs that you could encounter along the way. And there are a wide variety of NPCs and monsters to encounter and engage with. And like many Daggerheart adventures, it is in the player's hands, and they have a lot of agency throughout this investigation. I would like to say, like a quick note, if your PCs prefer to just roll perception and investigation persuasion to breeze through different investigatory encounters, this module is going to frustrate them, and it is going to frustrate the game master. Because this adventure rewards characters who enjoy questioning suspects, finding clues, digging deep into the story, because the fun comes with the interacting of the clues, of the motives, and this rich tapestry of characters that have been created. And the game also has a few clever systems in place in regards to interacting with the NPCs. Each character has an interrogation score that changes depending on the success or the stupidity of the character's actions. Also, each NPC has a very defined chart of their motives, their behaviors based upon certain aspects of the interrogations, and their discovered clues and backstories. Now we come to the penultimate category, which is GM support. And I'm going to give this a hit, but just barely. It's like a success with fear. Because in some areas, this game provides strong guidance, like the aforementioned charts or the room investigations. But there are other aspects that are a little harder to navigate, and this adventure requires a good bit of prep, and I feel that a new game master could be easily overwhelmed. But here's a dragon butterfly, and that's pretty darn cool. I just really feel that the adventure could use some printer-friendly handouts. That would help a lot, because there is a good bit to keep track of. There's interrogation scores, NPC info, there's the ship lockdown counter, there's key areas, there's the gala clock countdown, which is a super fun encounter. And while it is pretty obvious what you should be reading aloud because of some iconography, I still feel like some bolded words would have helped a little bit just to help describe certain areas. Additionally, an adventure flowchart I think would have helped significantly. One of the great things about this adventure is the multiple paths that it can go based off of the character's actions. But there are some sections like subcategory 4I Outcome 2, it's a little difficult to process without a clear visual guide of how exactly we got there. Again, these are the smallest of problems that can be easily remedied in a later version. So the last category, replayability and value. And I'm kind of saved the best for last on this one. As I mentioned earlier, there are multiple paths that the adventure could go down, and there are also multiple murderers. Because a frustration of mine was, while reading this, is like, well, who's the murderer? I want to know the story here. And it turns out the murderer is up to the game master. Now, the game master has their choice of one of 5 different suspects, and all of them have very clear motives and clues tying them to the case. So this game can go down very differently in different plays with different groups, and that is a huge plus. And if the players choose wrong, the villain can set about the ship's self-destruct mechanism, which is a really fun sequence where the players are either trying to track down the villain or help the passengers overboard in their life bubbles. And I just love the idea of all these social elite people trying to climb into these like little funny little bubbles and like jumping overboard with them. But the big question is it worth the money? And the asking price is $20, and that's a good bit of money to ask. And even though I like the adventure and I love the NPCs and multiple outcomes, I don't think that's enough value for $20. But I'm talking about just the adventure. And this book includes so much more. Now, this is actually what I find to be the biggest selling point of the book, is the multiple player options it includes. There are 3 different ancestries and species for either Daggerheart or Dungeons and Dragons, my favorite being the Kalis, which is like the night sky wrapped in human form. There are multitudes of backgrounds and communities for both Daggerheart and 5th edition. On top of that, there are some new classes. The Trickster class for Daggerheart, which can either be a gambler or the seducer. There's also the Gambler Rogue subclass included as well. On top of that, there's the College of Allure for bards, and the Scrapper class for Daggerheart, which can either be a gunslinger or a smith. Beyond that, there is the Forge domain for Daggerheart. There's also the Warrior subclass for Daggerheart, the Way of the Ronin, or the Guardian subclass, the Siphon. And this is where the book really shines as a supplement for both 5th edition as well as Daggerheart. Everything is laid out and presented clearly and cleanly. But is it worth the value? I mean, that's obviously up to you. If you have a group of players who love to roleplay and want a clever murder mystery, and you have an itch to play some really kind of twisted or tragic NPCs, this could be a great fit for you. And if things go right, the players could end up calling this airship their home base of operation. I know that is exactly what my players would try to do. So overall, I call it a hit. Despite some formatting issues, it is a very strong showing for Wyverse's first foray into published material. It has an intriguing story, a really great set piece that it's all centered around, and some of the best drawn NPCs I can think of in quite some time. And beyond all of that, is just a great supplemental resource for those of you looking to expand your Daggerheart library. So this is Murder on the Molybdivum. Molybdivum. Gosh, I hope I'm pronouncing that properly. And I am Alone in the Dork. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, I hit my microphone. I am just, man, I'm not sticking the end. Stay dorky, my friends.